Hello and welcome to a very special interview on the MMA Split podcast channel. We are delighted to welcome MMA and UFC veteran himself, Smile'N Sam Alvey, who has very graciously given us a little bit of his time to answer our questions about his fantastic career. 23-fight veteran in the UFC, massive wins over people like Nate Marquardt, Rashad Evans, Dan Kelly, and has seen pretty much everything in the UFC from the Zuffa era through to what we're dealing with now with Endeavor and UFC being on ESPN and a mainstream sport. So I suppose the first question I've got for you, Sam, is a kind of two-part question. When did you know that you sort of wanted to be an MMA fighter? And to kind of combine that with, when did you realize, when was that moment where you realized I can make it, this can be my career?
Yeah, shoot. So I didn't grow up with the UFC. I didn't watch boxing. I didn't grow up in any martial art of any kind, really. Some guy asked if I wanted to fight, and I said, yeah, okay. And I did that for about 4 months, and then somebody said, I'll pay you money if you fight for me. I said, all right, that's even better. So I guess I turned pro then. I made, I think it was like $200 or $250 on my first fight, and I was just ecstatic. It was thrilled with how successful that was for me. And then I just kept doing it. I was in college. I had nothing better to do, so I just kept fighting. I eventually started my own gym where I was the head trainer of it. And I kind of built a good team. And it's funny, I did it because I didn't know anything about anything. Don't get taken down. That was my rule, and have better conditions than everyone else. So that's what I did. And it's kind of my game plan to this day. And when I decided, it was really my wife, my girlfriend at the time, that decided that this is something I could do. She found out about the UFC long before I did. And she said, hey, we got to do this, but we got to get you into a gym where you're not the head coach. And so that's when I moved out to Team Quest.
Fantastic.
So when you met your now wife, was that actually at the gym where you were coaching?
No, I met her at the Renaissance Fair. I was selling steak on a steak, and she was selling bodists. And we got introduced by a mutual friend or two, and the rest is history, I guess. It was long before I started fighting even.
Oh, okay. I had it all mixed up because I know you actually trained like MMA as well. So I thought you guys actually met at the MMA gym.
No. We've been training together. I mean, we've been training as long as each other because we didn't train before we knew each other. Yeah, so it's we now work out at the same gym, and we have always. But no, I wasn't doing it, and she wasn't doing it before then.
That's fantastic. So you guys, basically your entire MMA journey, she's sort of been kind of your partner and sort of at your side throughout all of it.
Yeah, she was. She's been at every fight. She's missed 2 fights in my career. One I was in Russia, she couldn't get to, and one was COVID, she couldn't get to. But I'm getting real close to 80 fights, and she's been there for all of them.
Wow, that's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Now, touching on all this.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Josh.
I was just quickly tag on, just as far as corners go, like your wife is just like an absolute badass. Like she does it like pregnant. She does it whatever the weather. Just only missed 2 fights. Like I had to put it in there. Like your wife is an absolute badass.
It was with Ivel. So Ivel, I think it was Ivel, my second child. She was 8.5 months pregnant when I fought Eric Spicely. Yeah, I mean, it was
wow.
I get there on Saturday, and then she's out there with me because she was due really any day now. We had her come out on Thursday, close to the fight, just in case she went into labor. She'd be by her doctors. So she came out, cornered me, and then we flew home.
Bloody hell, that's an amazing story. Going back to, obviously, when you kind of not just made your debut in UFC, but going back to sort of MMA, obviously it's a completely different sport at that point. You have Anderson Silva emerging as this champion, but he hasn't really got that recognition. How different is the sport as from the fighter's perspective now to when you were kind of starting out in terms of what it's like being a fighter, the kind of recognition that you get, and when you see what the popularity is now?
Yeah, well, we can start with the money. The money has gotten far better. I know people like to complain about the UFC pay and all that, but from where they are now, I believe right now you start at 12-12. When I started, you started at 8-8. So that is a 50% increase in pay on the beginning level by in what 8 years or 9 years I've been there, which is unheard of. So you start at 12 and 12, you're going up three, but now they're even going up 3,000 in each end. When I started, it was 2,000. So the pay has gotten so much better. Then you look at how big and recognizable the sport is. I get recognized everywhere I go. I love it. I've always been a fan of being recognized like that when people want to say hi to me. I was at Lowe's the other day and like 2 or 3 people recognized me, and it was a lot of fun getting to talk to them. And that didn't, I mean, I know I have gotten bigger as a fighter, but the sport itself has grown so much that when I first started, that didn't happen that often, unless you were Chuck Liddell or maybe Couture. Tito probably got it too. And so the sport is just growing leaps and bounds, and it is so much fun watching the new generations of talent and how the sport is progressing. You know, it started off, it was jiu-jitsu dominated everything. It just dominated everything. And then it went to wrestling, and wrestling dominated everything. And now then it right now we're in a transition again. It went to the freak athlete. Freak athletes started dominating everything, like the John Joneses and the Francis Ngannou's and even Usman's to an extent. You'd put him in the freak athlete category. But now the Dagestanis and Russians are coming over, and they're bringing it back to, yeah, we're just going to learn wrestling, but we're going to be wrestle all of you. And so it might be going from the freak athlete to the stud wrestler again. So it's fun watching it as this sport evolves and transitions into its next stages.
No, it certainly changed a lot. I mean, that's the kind of funny thing, is that switch between sort of like, and I almost feel like we're going back to that kind of point of specialists. Like a few years ago, it was the well-rounded, you kind of have to be good at everything, and then you look at sort of, you've got obviously the Dagestanis with wrestling, and you've got like an Izzy Adesanya that's just a pure specialist at striking, but just does it so brilliantly. Okay, and in terms of, obviously, because you started in the UFC when Zuffa was running things, and now it's Endeavor. From your side, is there a big change aside from just the pay going up, or is it kind of feel like it's kind of the same people kind of running the show, or the same operation, or?
It still feels like the same operation. Endeavor saw what worked so well for the UFC, and they just kept going with it. I mean, all the same people that are getting me ready backstage, all the same people that are emailing me and messaging me. It has always felt like the UFC cares about me, the fighter, and Endeavor is doing the same thing. You do see, now you see The Rock putting the BMF belt on people, and you saw, what's her name, Halle Berry putting it back on Rose. And so you'll see Hollywood involved a little bit more. And for me, that's falling a little flat, but I don't know I don't know if everyone else loves seeing it. Maybe having The Rock in there brings more eyes to it. So you see a little bit more Hollywood going on. And now every fighter is a commentator. Every great fighter has become a commentator, is doing something and Zuffa didn't do that as much. But other than it being a little more Hollywood now than it was, they're still putting out a great product and really putting the fighters first.
Fantastic to hear. Kind of touching on that, and obviously sort of everything that's going on. Obviously, Roxanne, I think, Josh, you wanted to ask a couple of questions about Roxanne.
Yeah, obviously, we're huge fans of Roxanne Modafferi. Like, who isn't, right?
Yeah, everyone loves her.
So you tweeted out a bit of support for her retirement fight. How did you feel watching Roxanne fight? And also, I feel like with Roxanne, you got something of a kindred spirit there, Do you kind of like look at other like tough alum, Ultimate Fighters and think, that is my kind of fighter? Who are your favorites? Who are the ones you identify with?
Yeah, well, Roxanne is way nicer than I am. So it's kindred spirits maybe, but she
hasn't done the podcast yet, Sam. Don't say yourself short. I'm putting you ahead of Roxy.
So watching her do it, she's done it. She was one of the pioneers in women's MMA. She's been before she might have been before Zuffa. I know she's not old, but she's got a lot of fights. So she might have been before
Zuffa. 2005.
Yeah, when did Zuffa buy it? Like 99 or around 2005?
Yeah, 2000, 2001 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she
early
was there
days.
Beginning of Zuffa. She was competing. And it's really a lot of fun watching her. The success she's had and what she's been able to do for the sport is really impressive. And watching people that, I mean, she had a big record going into the Ultimate Fighter. Then she fought for the title afterwards. She wasn't supposed to, but it worked out that she did. And what a good fight. I remember that fight. That was my first time really getting to see her fight. And what an impressive fight that was. She lost, but it was close. And odds didn't have it as close. So that was a lot of fun to see. And then just watching her, the highs and lows and really the peaks and valleys of her career has been a lot of fun. And then to go out, like I tweeted, she went out and she didn't take a step backwards. She has made a career of never taking a step backwards. And that's something to be envied.
And Casey O'Neill's a beast as well. She's got title challenger written all over her, the girl that she fought in a retirement fight. We were both looking at that, big Roxy fans, thinking, oh man, like, I really love Roxy, but I don't know if that's the right fight. And she was still in it all the way. Kind of touching on that, one of the things I think we love about both of you guys is that in a kind of very sort of sport that a lot of casuals can think is very aggressive, you guys have always kind of broken that sort of trend with your personality and sort of kind of how you present yourselves. And I kind of wanted to know, where was the inspiration for Smile'N Sam, the kind of the cage name? Where did it come from? Was it intentional, or was it just that you felt that was yourself and that was the best way to be?
My name is Sam and I smile a lot. It just kind of wrote itself. I think it was my dad that mentioned it first. And we said, you know what, let's do it. If I'm going to be this fighter guy, I should be as memorable as possible. And he said, and make it as easy as possible. It's really not an act I put on when I'm on camera. It's kind of who I am. And the camera just happens to point at me every so often. So the name just fit. People, I mean, they call me Smiley more than they call me anything else when they see me at the store. If they can't quite recommend the name, you're Smile'N Smile. Yeah, it's me. That's me. And it is who I am. I'm just a happy guy who got blessed and maybe even a little lucky in having the career I've had.
Well, it's certainly been an impressive one, man. And kind of touching on that, do you ever feel a need, or was there a point in your career where you felt like you had to almost like get a little mean to kind of get into the spirit of fighting? Or has it always just been something that you've just been very able to kind of compete in with the kind of, personality that you have? Or did you have a point where you thought you had to get a bit mean to sort of compete?
No, and I don't know if it's in me to do. I love this sport. I mean, it is so much fun. I never at any point in my life need to wear shoes because of what I've done in this sport, because of what I've been able to do. And I never got the guys that can pull off that meanness. If you're going to be mean and hate life so much, do something else. This is just, I would do this for free. And yet I've got people that'll pay me a bunch of money and cheer for me as I do it. I mean, that by itself, keeps me happy and smiling.
Yeah, but you look like someone that just loves to compete. Like,
I love it. I'm real close to 80 fights, and I'm thrilled. I feel as good now as I did day one.
Man, that's so cool. I know you kind of mentor and coach a lot of fighters as well. Out of all the young fighters you're kind of like training with, who are the ones to keep an eye on? Who are like the next big names?
Yeah, so I've always done a lot. Like, I was the head coach at the gym for the first 4 years, and then I've been coaching at Team Quest, and I'm coaching out here in California. Trevor Wells, Mason Icabellas, they're both two studs. Probably my best friend Jordan Winsky, he's now fighting for Bellator. He's 11 or 12 and 2 or 3, so something in there. And he's having just he's going to be having a real good run here with Bellator not too long. So I'm surrounded by guys that are up and coming, and I'm trying to surround myself with guys who are there too, like the Sean Stricklands and Dan Hendersons.
Man, that Sean Strickland is scary at the moment. He's on a roll.
Oh man, he's funny. He gets kicked out of gyms, but it's not that he's kicked out of gyms. It's that he goes to gyms, he beats everybody up, and nobody wants to train with him anymore. So he keeps rotating where he's at. He's at Syndicate for a while, and he beats everyone up there. And then he was at Couture for this last one, and I think he found some Russians that are going to put up with him for a little while longer. So he might do his next camp there. And I have been a training partner of his for getting close to 10 years now. And I'm willing to get hit by him. If I have the chance of hitting him too.
On that note, what is your opinion when it comes? Because obviously he spars very, very heavy. He likes to try and simulate that kind of fight experience. What's your preference when it comes to sparring? Like, has it changed over your career, or do you still like to go quite hard, or do you try and kind of mix it up? Or
The only thing that's changed with me is I don't want to spar with Strickland every time now. Yeah,
that's
no,
understandable.
yeah, he and I were in the same mindset. Sparring is the most important part of practice. Drilling is okay, but sparring is where it's at. He spars more than I do because he travels more than I do. That and he's a little bit smaller than me, so he has a bigger pool of guys that are willing to spar. Me, I get stuck with the heavyweights. I'm so sick of sparring heavyweights.
You got those hooks, Sam. You throw that left hook or that check hook, people go to sleep. So I wouldn't want to spar you.
Well, see, and that now the big difference in Strickland, we got the same mindset. Even he says he daydreams about killing people. I don't want to say I daydream about it, but I am like, if he dies in the ring, I win twice the purse. I'm cool with it. So he are very similar in a lot of ways. But when it comes to sparring, he doesn't care who he's sparring. He's going as hard as he can. And me, I go as hard as I can when I'm sparring with him. And everyone else, I pull stuff. And I think that's what I've got to change about my training going forward. I gotta surround myself with more people I'm not afraid to hit too hard.
Yeah, probably a smart move. I always think with Sean Strickland, like everything he says kind of feels like a really exaggerated version of that thing that we all kind of think but don't want to say out loud to a certain extent. So I get his sense of humor. I think I find him quite entertaining. And Hellman, I think that Izzy fight's going to happen at some point. He might only be a fight away.
Guaranteed. I was predicting he fights the loser. I think he fights Whitaker, the loser of the Whitaker Alessandro fight. I think he gets Whitaker next, but I picked Sean in it. And then I think Izzy's the one that gives Sean the hardest time. I still pick Sean to win. I think the pace Sean has is too much, and then Sean's grappling is way underrated. So I think that fight happens soon. I think Izzy probably beats Cannonier, but then Sean's the next pick.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
I heard it here first.
Obviously, we don't want to keep you for too much longer. You're a busy man, but just a couple more questions before you go. What would you say your proudest moments in MMA is, or your favorite moments of your career? Is there one that you can single out that you go, I'm going to remember that? There's going to be a sort of a keepsake on the shelf of that moment.
Yeah. So when I walked out to fight Talis Ladies in Nashville MMA, or in Nashville, the UFC in Nashville, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, I have always walked out to the song "Hey Soul Sister." And in Nashville MMA, I walked out and there was 10,000 people, 20,000 people, whatever it was, and they all sang it to me. So as I was walking out, I mean, the auditorium, the arena was saying, "Hey, hey," sang it to me, and it was like, oh my goodness, this is too cool. And I've had a few experiences like that where they know the song, they like the song, and they sang it to me as I'm walking out, and that's pretty cool. Let's see, another one up in, where was I? In Canada, the expensive part of Canada. So Ottawa. No, it was the expensive when I fought Kevin Casey. I got the microphone and I yelled, "Hell yeah, Canada, you guys are awesome," or whatever I said. And they responded. They jumped in. They loved it. They were part of that moment. And that moment always sticks out to me too.
Sam, there's a moment always sticks out in my head with your career. Mexico City, you just beat Rashad Evans. They rob you of your opportunity to get on the microphone. All I can hear you say as they decide not to do a post-fight speech is, "I had something to say. I learned Spanish for this." Now's your chance, Sam. What were you going to say?
He's wanted to know this for a while. This was his first question when we got the interview.
Yeah.
Shoot, it was probably a cuss word. That's probably what it was. So, in Brazil, if you're not Brazilian, they all chant two things. They chant "Via Montacu," which is die, and "Via Moher," which is go F yourself. Or maybe I have those backwards. And I believe I had something like that in the background. Man, that was a few years ago. I should have written it down. Or I saw they weren't giving me the microphone, and I just said that to make them feel bad for not giving me the microphone.
Oh no!
that was
I thought I
probably
was going to come away with MMA legend today. Well, that's God bless you. That's completely deflated everything I believe in.
For me, the story is so much better because of that.
Bully for you, pal. Sam, I got to get another good question in then. All right, we were talking on the last episode about how some fighters come into the UFC a little too fresh in their career, you know, riding a 4-5 win streak, undefeated record. And somewhere like Bellator these days is kind of a better, large organization to grow within. They do the better job of matchmaking. You fight similar tenured fighters. And we were kind of saying, you know, what's the best thing to do? Get a lot of fights in early on the regional scene, go to Bellator young, go to the UFC, go through Contender Series, Ultimate Fighter. And obviously, you've actually done all of those. You know, you got, 12 fights in the regional scene in Wisconsin. Then you went to Bellator. Then you did the Ultimate Fighter, a few more regional fights. And then in the UFC for, sweet Jesus, 20 fights? No.
23 fights.
23 fights, yeah. So what's your advice for young fighters? What do you think is the best avenue to kind of come up these days?
The best advice I can give is advice I wouldn't have given a few years back. Pad your record. If you're just growing up in MMA and it's pad your record. The undefeated means more than beating good guys. If you look at the greats, if you look at Khabib, he's 29-0, he's a stud. If you look at his record, he has 15 guys that should not have been in the ring with him. I fought Da Un Young. He's got a big record. I think he's like 19-1-1 now, and I won, or 19-0-1. And I beat him. I don't care what the judges say. I
completely agree.
Yeah, he fought a guy named Hulk twice. No, I'm sure. Yeah, not a real person, or maybe it is, and I don't know the situation behind it. But so he got to 19-0-1 or whatever his record is, fighting Hulk a couple times. Americans, and you know what, Western cultures tend to not have the padded record like many of the Eastern cultures do. And I would say pad your record. Get the wins first, because as soon as you're 29-0, nobody's going to remember what your first 15 fights were. Get that undefeated streak, fight chumps, fight whoever, get the wins, because in the long run, it's going to be worth more. I never did that. I always fought whoever they put in front of me. I just fought, and I fought guys I shouldn't have, fought guys I should have, fought anyone. And I don't have my guys do that anymore. So if you're going to fight someone tough, we're going to get you paid to fight someone tough.
Well, also, you're getting experience as you're going, even if it's lower level guys. Yeah. It's minutes in the cage. It's different looks. It's, you know, we were talking about this because there was who lost on the weekend. Fabio Chiron came in at sort of like promising record, 5-0, 6-0 into the UFC. And all of a sudden he's 7-3. He's lost 3 fights in a row. And it's like, when you've only got 7 fights, and a lot of these times it's, you know, you haven't got that much experience. It might be the first time you're fighting a really high level wrestler, and you're getting that look in the UFC at a really high level with all of the other well-rounded games. So that's excellent advice. And one thing I was wondering, if there was one martial art that you would recommend, let's say you've got 10-year-old at home, wants to be in the UFC when he's older, and he's going to start with one martial art. What would you say is the fundamental, this is what you should learn before everything else if you want to do MMA?
Wrestling. Yeah, you can almost just stop at wrestling. If you can get to that dominant level of Khabib or even DC, all he did was wrestle at the beginning, picked up a little boxing, but for the most part, he just wrestled. Wrestling is the most dominant martial art in the world. It's more dominant than jiu-jitsu. It's more dominant than boxing or Muay Thai or Taekwondo. Wrestling is what terrifies people. And if you can become a good wrestler who's not scared to get hit, you will be a UFC champion, or you've got a good shot at it.
Fantastic advice. And on that, Sam, we will let you get back to your family and your day. Oh, Josh, go on. What?
Sorry.
Oh, the pick. That's right.
Jamal Hill against Johnny Walker. Who you got?
I'm taking Walker. Hill's great. I love Walker. He is so much fun to watch. He's such a character. So I'm pulling for him more than I'm really thinking he's going to win, but I love it when he fights.
Do you think it's a knockout, or do you think he sort of gets a decision win?
Yeah, I think if he wins, it's a knockout. I think if it goes to decision, he loses. But I think it's a knockout.
All right, we
Fantastic.
both went for Hill, so if that comes off,
We'll
just remember
see
to
what
cover yourself in glory. You got that one.
You
You
should
got the
know.
winner, right?
Oh, I've got a terrible record when it comes to main event picks.
I
Terrible.
feel confident in my choice in Hill in that case.
I'm 75% wrong with main event picks. So good luck with your Hill.
It's like Chael Sonnen, man. Every time he does a pick, it goes in the opposite direction.
Yep. Now it's kind of a joke for me. It's like I wrong most main events.
Good to know. Well, Sam, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. You are welcome anytime. We have thoroughly enjoyed this, and best of luck for you and your career in the future and your family and all the rest, man.
Hey, hold on. Before I go, you guys want to see something?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, check this out. Oh, maybe you won't. I don't know you. But look what I can't get it. I got chickens. They just arrived.
No way.
Oh, man, I can't. There we go. Can you see them?
Oh, you got baby chickens. That's adorable.
That's awesome.
Oh, man, you saw them as soon as I did. Oh, they're adorable. Hi. Sorry. My family just got home. I didn't know they were getting those today.
Hey,
Man,
Sam,
it's
if you
not
could
a
name one
problem
of
at all.
those Sly for us, if you could name one of those chicks Sly, we will love you forever.
Fly for one of the chicks?
Yeah.
Sly's our co-host. He couldn't make it today.
Okay.
And I just feel like that's going to save some face. It's going to get him back in the win column, you know?
All right, Sly. I'll remember that.
And you're an absolute gent. Thanks so
You're
much
a
for your
prince.
time. Best of luck, and say anytime in the future. Peace out.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sam Alvey. All right, enjoy your day, bud. Take care.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.